So hi all, good evening everyone. So welcome to session 3, day 1, Global Soccer Enclave uh, webinar on soccer education and management. I am Yogaraj Kumar. I'm extremely happy to be moderating this session purely because I'm myself a product of soccer education and management. I'm a football business master's postgraduate from International Football Business Institute in Belgium. So post that, I've started working for SD Eibar, the La Liga club, as business development officer. So since morning, we have been listening to a lot of experts and panelist speakers talking about how to work on the R3 ecosystem, how to reorganize and restart and replan towards working into a normal behavior after the COVID situation. So here we are, and the way we have planned is I'll be introducing the panelist speakers one by one, and then they'll be giving their expert opinion on particular topic. Once all the speakers have been spoken and given their enlightenment, it's open to questions. Perfect. So the first speaker on board is Mr. Simon Chadwick. I'm not sure if
you didn't tell me that.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm not sure if you remember me. You were my professor at. You were my professor at IFBA as well.
You were the real troublemaker in the class. I remember that.
Glad I was. Okay, so just an intro on himself. Mr. Simon has been in the sports business for about 25 years, and is right now the director center of Eurasian sports industry. And during various part of his career, he has been like highlighted as world's 30 most important sports marketers and Britain's top most influenced sport marketer, and once addressed as Britain's top sports guru. So he is an expert in politics, technology, and name it. And very happy to have you on board, Mr. Simon. And over to you. And we would be love to receive your thoughts on what is the constraints you have faced in the sports and sponsorship and revenue in the sports sector, especially in football.
Okay, I'll share my screen before I start, if I may. Okay, so thank you everyone for being here today. Thank you to the audience for participating. Thank you too for the organisers for inviting me, and pleased to meet my co-presenters, most of whom I've not met before, so good to meet you. I'm going to try and be fairly swift because I do have a tendency to monologue, as some of you will know. And I'm going to give you, I guess, a really quite a distinct perspective on this, in the sense that, if I can fast forward a little, I'm currently locked down in England, but I normally work out of Paris, and I also have an office in Shanghai. And just to let you know, I'm not actually in Shanghai. I am in England right now. So just to say a little bit more about who I am and what I do, I have a particular interest in sport, but very, very specifically in football. I am a marketer. I work in business schools. I'm a marketer. I have a particular interest in sponsorship, in brands. But what I also have a growing interest in is politics and the political aspects of sponsorship. And I would draw your attention to one example of a sector that interests me, and that is the airline industry, particularly the Gulf airline industry. So many of you will be familiar with Emirates Airlines and their Real Madrid sponsorship, and Qatar Airways and their Roma sponsorship, Etihad and Manchester City. So this is the kind of thing that really, really interests me. I know that America exists, and I know that South America exists, and I know that Africa is really important, but I'm especially interested in the space between London and Tokyo. So India, China, Saudi Arabia, Russia, and of course France, Britain, Germany, and other parts of Europe. And you can see a little bit about my experience there in terms of who I've worked with and the kind of organizations I've worked with. So just to say, I am an academic, and I do academic things like talk to students and write things, but I try to maintain very active and healthy relationships with the outside world. And so the perspectives that I'm going to present very quickly today, I think are a testament to that. It's not just my personal view, it's the views that I've ascertained by talking to people from the industry. For those of you who want to contact me at some stage, you'll find me on LinkedIn. Otherwise, you're welcome to email me. I do take emails. I hate phones, so don't telephone me, but you are welcome to email me. And if you want a sense of what particularly interests me, you can see by looking at my Twitter timeline. Now, the reason I wanted to show these photographs is not just to say, hey, I'm in England right now, but normally I work in France and China. But I think they provide some really interesting insights into what has been happening during this period, because in Britain, I think we have not been especially successful in addressing the challenges posed by the virus. And we are due to get some sport this summer. We will see some cricket. We will also see some football fairly soon. But I just highlight one particular event for you. We had a horse racing festival that some of you may be familiar with, the Cheltenham Festival. This took place back in March, and there were upwards of 100,000 people attended this horse racing festival. And there were calls at the time for the government to actually abandon the event, to cancel the event, and it refused to do that. And as a consequence, we've seen a fairly significant cluster of COVID-19 sufferers at this event or around this event. And there is a call for a government inquiry into whether or not this event should have taken place. So there is something about events and about people congregating and about social distancing, which I think is very important. You contrast that with France, and as some of you will know, in France, Ligue 1, the top French league, has been cancelled. It's finished. It's ended. And this is in stark contrast to most of the rest of Europe. We know, for example, the Netherlands has also abandoned its league, but French football has gone. It's finished. So whilst La Liga and obviously the Premier League, the Bundesliga will go, will continue, French football won't. All of this really contrasts with China. And China is really very interesting because not much has happened in China. So this is obviously the country where we believe the virus originated. It was very quickly onto postponing or cancelling its sports events. Its football still hasn't started. And there's still considerable debate about how they start their football. There is a plan to start basketball. But again, the Chinese have been ultra cautious. Now, we can all speculate about why that might be, but I think the contrast between what's happening in Chinese football and what is happening in, say, English football is really quite dramatic. But otherwise, what I wanted to do is just to pick up on three things. The first thing is to draw your attention to what has been happening in Denmark. And some of you may be familiar with the Zoom wall that has been used in Aarhus in Denmark. So instead of having a crowd, because obviously social distancing and health measures are difficult to implement, so what they've done is to set up Zoom walls around the pitch. So there are matches being played, but with people watching from home. And I just think this is a really interesting development, and perhaps we can talk about this some more as the session goes on. The Zoom wall is obviously only one approach to filling stadiums. We know that there are apps for creating fan noise. We know that in South Korea they used sex dolls as crowd members. We know that at Borussia Mönchengladbach you can buy a cardboard cutout of yourself that will sit on your seat. And so I guess in these terms, what I'm saying through this slide is fans and stadiums and noise and atmosphere and experience. What happens next? I'll leave that hanging. The next thing that interests me is what will happen to sponsorships. I talked about Gulf Airlines at the start of the session. Between them, Qatar Airways and Etihad have suggested that they may have to make upwards of 30,000 people redundant. So 30,000 people will lose their jobs. So we've known football over the last decade being a major recipient of, a major beneficiary of huge amounts of money from Gulf Airlines, but also from the likes of Aeroflot, the Russian state airline, which is a sponsor of Manchester United. So if these airlines are suffering because the industry is suffering, people are not traveling, they can't travel, jobs are being cut, I think there is an issue around the extent to which football clubs will be able to continue generating the levels of sponsorship, not just from Gulf Airlines, but from other industrial sectors too. So again, I'll just leave the question hanging. What happens to football sponsorships? And the final thing, and this is obviously not a football image, I try to find an image that best illustrated agility and power. What I found really interesting about certainly football in Europe and specifically football in England is a lot of football clubs have really suffered financially. There has been a big issue around generating revenues when ticket sales are not taking place, but at the same time, those costs are there. And so many clubs are suffering, but at the same time, we have seen, for example, Manchester City, in the midst of the pandemic, has still bought Lommel of Belgium. So whilst many football clubs are faced with the prospect of contracting, there is a small number of bigger, more powerful clubs continuing to expand. So for me, there's something about, and this is the reason for this slide, is power and agility. And one of the things that I'm observing is the more powerful, the more agile clubs are more likely to survive and prosper once this is over. Whereas the smaller clubs, the less powerful clubs, the less agile clubs perhaps won't. So again, in terms of clubs, in terms of power, in terms of agility, what happens next? So from my very specific perspective, what I'm interested in, what's happening between London and Tokyo, what's happening in terms of the future of fandom and the fan experience, the core product of football, what's happening to sponsorships, and what are the qualities and characteristics of clubs that I think will be needed to sustain clubs through this difficult period. And as I've said, there is something about agility and strength which is important. Okay, thank you for listening.
Thank you, Simon. That was brilliant, quite brilliant, especially the way you touched around the airline sponsorship and also the power and agility businesses need to have to sustain during this period. It was enlightening, and thanks. Hopefully, we'll come back to you with the questions later.
Thank you.
So next on the panel is Martin Ernest, and happy to introduce Martin Ernest. He's the head of research and IFBI, International Football Institute, the institute where I pursued my football business masters. He's an independent football consultant and focused on business development, international marketing, and partnerships is the prime area of work. And he was very important in helping me with the networking during my masters as well. So hopefully you're joining from Brussels or Limburg. Open to you, Martin. And I would like you to discuss on what do you think about the effect of COVID on the sponsorship and revenue sector in football?
Thank you very much for the introduction, Yogaraj, and very good seeing you again as being one of the participants at the International Football Business Institute. So I'm very glad to be here. Thank you all. Let me just share my PowerPoint first. I'm going to do that. So bear with me. Okay, that's it. Normally everybody will be able to see it. So as I said before, I'm part of the International Football Business Institute in Brussels, based in Brussels. It's a picture of me in better times. I'm not sitting like this at home, so just wearing a t-shirt right now. And as Yoga said, I'm responsible for research and business development, research on the one part, assisting clubs, federations in exchanging knowledge of the commercial. So that's my main occupancy. What we do at the International Football Business Institute varies. So we have like 3 pillars that we work on. The first one is the postgraduate course in international football business that Yogaraj joined as well in the second batch. That's designated for people who are willing to enter the football industry, willing to look for an educational platform that launches their career into the industry. The second pillar is the masterclass in international football business, and that's more focused on people already working in the industry. So we want to highlight on different topics, for example, ticketing is one, and really let people who are already involved in the industry benefit from knowledge exchange through this masterclass. And then the third pillar, the one I'm mostly involved with, is research and the consultancy part. So we offer advice, very practical advice to, like I said before, football clubs, federations, and leagues. Over the last 3 years, we worked for as the ABAR, for example, for the Belgian Football Association, for the Dutch Football Association, for a Belgian team called GSC Genk, but also for the bigger ones. So the City Football Group is an example of that. So now over to what we're going to discuss today. And I want to start with how I see football clubs. And I know this is not for everybody the same, but it's really my opinion on what are football clubs and how are they organized and what are they part of. And I really believe they're part of a bigger industry, being entertainment. So they offer entertainment to fans, to other stakeholders on match day, on non-match day events, but also digitally. And we see that is one of the biggest points that clubs are now trying to shift towards. So really a digital shift in engaging with their consumers. My second feeling on how football clubs are organized is that they have huge commercial opportunities, and maybe even more commercial opportunities that they have known before Corona and the COVID-19 hit us all. And the third pillar, the responsibility they have, to me, is also by having a social impact, by having an impact on local, national, and international communities. So take these three elements in mind throughout this further presentation. So COVID-19, and why has it hit the football industry? Following me, so in my opinion, it's because the football industry is a very event-based industry, very depending on match day income. Definitely their recurrent income is definitely depending on what they do at match day. So we're talking about catering, we're talking about hospitality, we're talking about ticketing, all those elements. Furthermore, they are also very dependent on external sources of income. Sponsorship is one of them, as Yogaraj said before, but also government funding, some benefits on taxes. They all add up to what the eventual budget of a football club is. They also deliver a non-essential service that's open for debate, but it's something people for a short time can miss. So it's not something that's really essential. And then the fourth element on what I think is one of the reasons that the football industry is hit that hard is because of the high wage pressure. So if you take a look at the ratio of wages compared to the operational revenue of football clubs, that's extremely high, very high compared to other industries. And when you have those kind of elements coming up and you have an external influence as COVID-19 was, well, obviously then troubles are going to come and challenges will be there. So a couple of scenarios that I think will impact or will be impacted. So the financial instability will be something that will continue for the next season as well. Definitely the wage pressure, loss of income, loss of operational income, meaning that players still need to be paid. So that will put again pressure on the overall budget. In terms of HR, and then I'm talking about the commercial and operational staff, I think there are going to be some cuts as well. So clubs trying to save money, and saving money can be done via limiting the commercial and operational staff. And we can already see that now, definitely in Belgium, the country where I'm coming from. We have a lot of noise in the press of clubs who decided to let go some of their staff. Very unfortunate. Match day related income, almost none. Sponsorship revenues will highly depend on what is the budget of the sponsor, right? If you have cuts in your budget, are you going to spend it on football, yes or no? That really depends. And broadcasting revenues, are there still some sums that need to be paid? Is there still some money due? Are clubs going to see that money? Are leagues going to distribute that further to the clubs? Those are all big question marks that we should address. So like I said, so in a period when there is less or no income at all coming from ticketing, coming from catering, hospitality, merchandising, licensing, non-match day events, business club activities, and all other activities as such, who are focused on bringing large groups of people together, well, obviously they're going to reflect in the income streams of football clubs. And what are the most important areas of concern? Those are how they're going to, or how they need to fix this situation right now, how they can address the situation is, to me, by focusing even more on the activation of sponsorship, really going for co-branding, let the sponsor know, let the partner know that you are there, that you want to help them in any other way. Football clubs will need to focus more on CRM, on customer relationship management, on the importance of data. That's for sure, in order to address the right people at the right time with the right message. That's something that's going to be even more important in the months to come. I think esports will be a big one as well, and you can see Simon highlighted on those elements as well. That you can see different kind of ways of engaging with consumers, engaging with supporters coming up. They're going to focus more on their own media channels, distributing content via their own media channels, rather than relying on external broadcasters. And then, of course, e-commerce. When you can't go to the fan shop, you need to buy online. So you need to have a decent e-commerce tool available to your consumers in order to sell. So these are the 5 areas that I believe football clubs should really focus on, definitely now in the upcoming months, if they're not already doing that. And that's the way how they can maybe balance the budget, trying to sell more, trying to activate more, trying to engage more with their consumers. And I think this is one important element that we can all take away from this short presentation. So every crisis, no matter how serious, it really offers opportunities. It really offers up possibilities as well to open up your current commercial operations. So really try to put aside the short-term thinking. Don't live that much from match day to match day, and invest sustainable. And I think that's really the most important. That will be the most important focus for football clubs in the month to come. And that will also, like Yogeraj asked me to discuss the sponsorship element as well. Really go for that co-branding, invest sustainable in your partnerships. And yeah, that's really going to be the way forward. So try to keep it as short as possible. I want to thank you for having me, for your time. If you have any further questions, or you want to just give me a call, or send me an email for more information on IFBI, or if you want to discuss some further commercial opportunities in the football industry, feel free to reach out. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Martin. That's quite a deep research standing for your like profile, and I do think that you especially touched on the wage structure and HR problems. I do think a question. I'll come back to you later. So next, move on to the next panelist, somebody who needs no introduction. So he is my mentor for the past 1 year, Dr. Shaji Prabhakaran. He's ex-AFF, ex-FIFA, and right now a consultant of Asian Football Confederation. And he is now in the challenging task of taking up the Delhi State Football Federation, and is doing a brilliant job there. And welcome, sir. And we would love to hear your experience on what do you think about digitization, and how do you think is affecting the overall ecosystem of football?
Thank you, Yogeraj. Can you repeat the question, please? I could not hear properly.
Sorry, sir. So, what do you think about digitization? How do you think digitization is very important to change the landscape of football?
Thank you, Yogeraj. For me, it's a pleasure to be among this eminent panelist, and good to meet you all. It's my pleasure, and thank you, Sports Pro Seat, for organizing this and inviting me for this important session. Whether it was COVID or no COVID, what the digitization process is very fundamental now for sports or any part of management or any part of operations. And sports cannot say that digitization process is just going to go up because of the COVID. it is a very fundamental aspect of our sports operation, and every aspect of sports operations have to be digitized, and everything has to be put in a digital form. And what we are doing right now, this e-conclave, this will become a common feature going forward, because this will have a massive impact on saving cost. Because one side we are saying the COVID will have a huge impact on the revenue generation, and this is the way we would be able to save cost, doing everything online. And we will travel less, but we will be much more efficient, and that is what is required. Whatever the level of the organization is, whether a community club, or whether they are playing the top league, or an football association at a state level, or a provincial level, or at a national level, what is required is every process, every aspect of football needs to come online and needs to be digitized. It is, most of the sports organization, football association, were focusing on two aspects majorly before. One was on the players registration, and the other was on the match management aspect, the CMS aspect. And then there were some other organizations which were focusing on the whole of digital medium, like say the Barcelona is a big example, where they have created this innovation hub, and where this huge discussion going on right now, how uh, every aspect of the players development, every aspect of the match management, every aspect of analysis of players, and these are becoming very personalized, these are becoming very individualized, because that is where the impact is coming. I won't be, was prepared to put a presentation here. I wanted to be more, giving, what is coming to my mind, and what I am trying to do at the local level in Delhi. Because we started our digitization process in Delhi exactly 18 months back, where we created a platform called FD Connect, that is a smart card oriented platform, where every player, every stakeholder gets a smart card when they register in our platform. Because with smart card, that smart card carries the whole data of the player, and it remains there for life. And that smart card has got multiple impact, where we extend them partner benefits, and that becomes their key identity as well, whether as a player, whether as a coach, whether as a referee. And this smart card is easy to manage, easy to operate. And in India, what the normal practice was, like whenever there's a league, where there's any tournament, every level, the documents were asked from the players, and it is always difficult for players to carry their original documents everywhere, and there were no data available. And we thought this is the right time. We started this process in early 20 in the late 2018, and we have completed that process, whereby we would like to register every stakeholder into our system, so that we can manage the players well, we can extend our services better, and we would be much more efficient, we will be transparent. And today, the data is the key asset. Yeah, and we have a very transparent data protection policy as well, where we don't want to play with any of the data. As you know, in India normally there is a kind of a suspicion about every data is used, so we are very protective of our data, and we won't be misusing in any way. And we are helped by the Spanish company in this whole process, and we are very fortunate. And now we are moving to a completely making a digital hub, in terms of whether it's live streaming, whether it is web series, whether it is e-commerce, whether it is e-sports, whether it is managing our content and engaging our community. Because what is happening is at a local level, uh, though our content is available uh, in every platform, but what happens, those content get completely goes to a very very back end of the content, because it is not easily visible, because the creamy content will always going to lead, like the in football everyone would like to know what is Messi is doing, what is Cristiano Ronaldo is doing, what is Barcelona is doing, or Real Madrid, or the top of the clubs. And at a local level, if we are not able to manage our content, we are not will not be able to manage our community well. And that's why we have strategized this process to manage our own content through our own digitization process. And we are in a process of developing our own hub. And with that, what we see is by December, January, we would be up and running with the whole digital hub, because we took this COVID as an opportunity to completely transform our operations and bring it to at par with today's reality, where technology is an integral part of operation. And though we are not resourceful as big organization, but we thought we have to start. And what we with that, with of course it's a risk, because if you don't have that kind of resources, you cannot complete the whole process. But what is happening is we are getting good support in terms of companies who are leaders in digital process, and they are helping us in creating in coming up with the right project plans. And we would be able to put that in process. So what at the end, what is important is digitization is a must, because that would mean you are following a good governance practice. That means you are transparent, you are efficient, you are proactive, and you are accountable. Yeah. So digitization gives you a complete, it's not a qualitative as well as quantitative. So therefore it is very objective in every way. And sports must lead this, because if we are in 21st century, and the technology is there everywhere, and sports associations, sports organizations globally, it's not perceived in a good way, because there's because of the politics, because of all whether it, all the international federations are in crisis some or the other way. It was in crisis because of one aspect is the governance aspect, because one aspect is the transparency aspect, one aspect is the engagement aspect, the uh, uh, so that all can be solved through digitization process. And the organization will be much closer to the community, and the community will be able to know what a sports organization is doing, and they will feel part of it. And that is what the whole idea is, so that we become an example of good governance, and at the same time we become an example for an efficient organization, and we become an example where we get the right funding, because the corporate or the sponsors will see that we are transparent, we are organized, we are structured. So therefore, in every way, the digitization helps, and that's it is a must, I would say, going forward. And it is not an alternative, it is a must. And that's how we will take sports forward, uh, and our work forward, and we will be able to better serve our community. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Shaji sir. It's been a pleasure listening to you regarding digitization. Anybody who knows you know you have been a true visionary of Indian football, trying to make a lot of changes. He has taken this football Delhi as his personal challenge, despite having worked for FIFA and AFF and all this. So I would recommend all the speakers and the participants and delegates to go and verify football Delhi what they are doing. It's very interesting. Please have a check on it. Okay, so now we are moving to an interesting speaker next. He's from Portugal. I've had worked with him regarding his plans for internalization of his projects. So he's the CEO and founder of Soccer Hub, and he is head of international affairs for Portuguese football coaches. He is a specialist in online programs, not only in football education but also sports education and health sector. And is the best thing is very open and always willing to share his thoughts and knowledge to everybody around. So welcome Ricardo Balberia, and now we are going to discuss on what are the new trends in soccer expert education.
Thank you very much for the lovely presentation. First, I would like to share my screen now with you guys. Is it okay?
Yeah, a little bit glossy.
Sorry?
It's a little bit glossy. Can you just take on the resolution? Yes, yes, it seems fine. Can you proceed to the next
Okay,
one?
perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, first, let me thank you for the lovely presentation of Yogaraj. I would like also to thank for Sportseeds for inviting me to this conclave. For me, it's a huge pleasure to be with such a group of renowned specialists in soccer. So my name is Ricardo Balbeira, as Yogaraj said. I'm an expert in soccer education. I've been working with education my whole entire life. Right now, I'm the CEO and founder of the education platform called Soccer Hub. That's an online education platform for soccer experts. On this lecture, I will explain what are the current trends in soccer experts education, and also I will try to connect with this COVID situation and the impact of COVID also in online education. So going ahead, first I would like to show you some information, some data about the online education industry, and also some information about how COVID-19 impacts this specific industry. We are all aware that we migrated quickly to an online system of communicating, but as you can see in this graph, and this is a graph of searches on Google about the keywords online learning. And as you can see, during the period of the COVID, it was like a huge peak of people looking for online learning on the internet, okay? Well, the information, if we could have more information, more actual information about this, I'm sure that the line will keep increasing a lot. And I also believe that, okay, after the COVID problem, the line will go a bit down, but never to the levels that it was before. I think that this is something that is here to stay, okay? Another graph, as you can see here, and this graph unfortunately doesn't include the effect of the COVID-19 in this specific industry. I just wanted to show you the growth of this industry on the last years, from 2012 to 2019. This is a graph that shows how many courses, free online courses, were available on Class Central. Class Central is the search engine of online courses. So as you see, the growth is exponential. And as I said before, there is no impact here about the growth of these kind of courses after the COVID and during the COVID, but I believe that would be like a huge spike. So I believe that this is still going to grow in the future. In this graph also, we're talking about the market side and the evolution of the market. Once again, this is this data doesn't include the impact of COVID. So this industry was growing at a 10% rate each year, okay? So it's expected that in 2024, the market size will double. Right now in 2019, the data show us that is an industry that moves about 72 billion US dollars. And also some interesting information that this specific market is very fragmented. It means that the players are aiming their specific content to a specific niche. It's a very interesting data. I don't think that this is going to change. I believe that specific platforms will aim to a specific target, and it will continue like that. Some other information about the growth, that 40% of the growth will originate in North America. So it means that in North America, this kind of online education has a lot more people looking for it. But I believe that now with the COVID, this will change a lot. And also I believe that markets like India, like China, like some countries in Southeast Asia will also be the motor of the growth of these specific industries. In this graph, just to finalize the analysis of the market, as you can see, and once again, this graph doesn't include the impact of the COVID. You can see the growth of this industry, and this the market's media estimates that in 2023 it will be an industry of about 423 billion US dollars. Okay, and once again, without considering the impact of COVID. Okay, let's go now to the online education. I'm trying to go fast on this subject, but we can split this experience of online education in two big areas. The first one, such as we are having here, live education, where people can interact from their homes. And as you know, some of the biggest players right now is Zoom, also Teams, but there are many, many other players getting into the market. So this is a live experience. Also something that I believe that's going to grow a lot in the future is the online congresses, the online conferences, online fairs. So there are some softwares in the market that can replicate this experience of a congress, where you can interact with the exhibitors, with the speakers, with the attendees. So I believe that this is growing a lot. I see many of the top congresses now migrating to online formats. So I believe that this is going to be something very important in the future also. Then we have the recorded content. And on the recorded content, I would say that the biggest player at the moment is Udemy, very focused on the tech side of learning. I believe that Udemy growth during this pandemic, I saw some data about it, that they start selling 10 times the way before the COVID. So I think there's going to be a trend in the future also. And of course, online education for soccer experts, you can find it on Soccer Hub. We are a quite recent company, only with 2 years, but we are well concerned in offering many online courses for different kinds of experts in the soccer industry. And we believe that, okay, this is not the answer for the learning, to learn, and I will explain a bit further ahead what I'm saying, but it's one more tool for you to learn at your own rhythm, for you to, well, take part of your time to take this kind of content. So it's one of the most interesting instruments for you to learn at your own rhythm. Of course, we believe that not everyone, this kind of platform is not suitable for everyone. You have to choose your own path, you have to choose your own instruments, but I will go back to that subject further ahead. Now, some technologies that we find already available for education, online education. Virtual reality it's something that is here now. It's a technology that is quite simple to use. We at Soccer Hub, we are already collecting some content with virtual reality, and we're going to put it in place very, very soon. One of the other experiences in online is the possibility of this kind of avatar technology, where in a virtual environment, we can meet with other people, we can learn with other people. This technology is not, in my opinion, it's not really there, but I believe in the next few years, we'll be able to meet in a virtual environment with an avatar created by us. So this is something that we should expect from the future. One of the instruments that we are already using and I believe that's very, very interesting for soccer, is the 360 degrees experience. This is very interesting to show, for instance, training drills and to explain training drills to students. So once again, this is a technology that already exists and is now being put in place also by Soccer Hub. Of course, the online education have some benefits, and also I have some questions that usually people ask me, is about how to generate interaction in online environment. Okay, this is a huge challenge at the moment, but I believe that the answer, it's called gamification. Okay, how we introduce games in the online education. I will now talk about a simple tool that I usually use in many kind of situation. Is a platform called Kahoot. And Kahoot not only allow you to make beautiful quizzes and put people interacting, but in this logic of gamification, it's important to put people competing with each other, okay? And this software in specific, it allows to have a kind of a ranking of the different players. And this kind of instruments works very, very well online, and is a way to generate interaction and competition, making these formats much more interesting, okay? Now, to finish my presentation, what about the future of the education of the soccer experts, and what is the contribution of the online education in this specific matter? So I believe that education, it's a kind of a puzzle, okay? But in this puzzle, we have to know how to fit the pieces. We have to know how to choose the right pieces. So it's a bit complex, but the main word here, the main sentence is, you must be yourself building your own path, okay? So you should be able to choose the best format. Of course, every process that stimulates sharing are very important. Also, introducing tutoring, learning in this kind of processes it's very important. It's a way for you to learn with someone that already went through this process. It's very important to develop and offer creative formats, and the online allows us to do this, to create gamification and to create situations where people can interact and could be a bit more interesting to take place of these kind of situations. And also the virtual reality, as I said, it's now on the market, and it's very important for soccer education, because allow us to be on the pitch learning with some of the best experts in the world. To finish this explanation, as I said, in my opinion, it's very important for you to be able to choose your own CV, you know, to choose what is missing in your curriculum for you to become a better professional in this specific area. Because in my opinion, the great purpose in the future is to develop creative minds. Finally, and concluding, as I said, you must be able to choose the content that is missing to you so you can grow as a professional. You must be able to choose your path. The online education will help you with that process for sure. And because, as José Mourinho said in the recent interview, you must be able to produce your knowledge and create your own identity, okay? In my experience, I have the opportunity to make several interviews to top coaches, top experts, and they all say the same, that the difference between an average expert and the top experts is the will to look for new knowledge, okay? So guys, I'll leave you with this information about the trend, how is education going to be delivered in the future. And of course, once again, if you have any questions, I'll be here till the end of the panel so I can help, I can answer to it, okay? Thank you a lot, guys.
Obrigado, Ricardo. Nice that you've all touched up on various platforms and the online tech, right from Udemy to live enclaves like this to soccer apps, and finally like maintaining identity and also gamification and all that. So thank you. And next we have an interesting guest from Spain, Hola Alejandro. So he is the director of program for Real Madrid Graduate School, and he has a huge expertise in project management, talent development, and he has worked with methodologies for Getafe, Barcelona, and he is a professor of UEFA B and C coaches in Catalonia Federation. So he has come with rich experience. Let's listen to him about what he has to say on future of football management courses. Over to you, Alejandro.
Hi everyone. Hi Yoga. Thank you very much for the introduction. I'm going to share the PowerPoint. Let's see. Yeah, are you able to see it?
Yes, perfect.
Okay. First of all, thank you very much for the invitation. Thank you very much for my, in this case, teammates of these conclaves. First of all, I have to say that I'm really agree with the last two presentations of Ricardo, because yeah, part of the view that I have of the business and how the educational world is moving to is the same that Ricardo. And I remember last year, Ricardo, I don't know if you remember, but we start to meet in contact and we start to discuss some topics, trying to organize something, because my view here in Spain is very similar that Ricardo has. And I agree totally with one point that it's already said here, that what COVID did to us or is doing to us is accelerating a process that was already there. And I'm going to put an example for that. We in the Universidad Europea, not only in the Real Madrid school, but all in the whole university, what we have done is in 1 week move 26,000 students of a presential way of studying to a virtual way of studying. So part of the tools, of the virtual tools were there. We already had them, but we were not using it because our context was not telling us to use it. But with this COVID situation, this quarantine that we have been living, made us to go to that new context. And what we are trying is trying to look and what is going to happen next course and what are going to be the tools that we are going to use. But like Ricardo said, we are doing this analysis. There are technology there. There is technology that has to be developed. But in my case, this is not my main objectives or focus of my professional position now. What I must think is with what are the contents that we are going to introduce to the students. I think, and I'm going to use some examples of how we understand football here, how we are explaining football here. We are coming from a world that is coming from this Cartesian way of understanding, trying to looking for the key factors, trying to looking for what is going to be the most important thing to learn. And we are trying to explain the reality of the football business in other sense. We are trying to going out of looking what is the key factor. When we talk about football here in Spain, is that we have a team, and a specific team that is a group of players being together, that they are going to play another team that is another specific number of players being together. And how we explain that is about these all relationships. Is the performance of a team, it's only being explained after the game is finished. So if we start to look for football in this way, we are not looking for a key factor. We are not saying that a goal or a save of the goalkeeper is the key factor of a performance of a team. There is only an action that is inside 90 minutes of performance of a group of persons in a specific context of time and space doing something. So this main idea that we understand that there are a lot of structures a lot of different elements that are together to explain our reality, we are trying to put that in the explanation of how football business is working. So putting on aside in which are going to be the technology and the different elements that we are going to use at the moment of have our relationship with our students, what we are focused on, my main objective is trying to explain to the people that, okay, the idea is to have experts all around the different professional structures. These experts are all of them included in different departments. So we have the physical trainers, we have the pre-op, we have the doctors, we have the physiotherapists. At the same time, we have the guys of the communication, of marketing. There is a lot of people in different departments inside the professional structures, but for us, one of the key questions is who is looking at the big picture, you know, who is looking at the general picture. In my professional career, as you said before, I have been very lucky of being on different professional structures in different continents. I have been in Africa, in Asia, Middle East. And one of the general problems that I have seen, or one of the general ways of managing football structures, what is happening inside is that people that are in the offices are talking different languages, or a different language that is the language of the people that are in the pitch, in the technical staff. So people in offices are looking for some kind of objectives, you know, business objectives, commercial objectives, trying to win money. And the people that are in the pitch, it's only thinking about how I achieve the optimal performance of my player. And then when they go and put together in a meeting, the manager or the president or the CEO or the community manager, you need to do that. It's kind of big space between the language that they are using in the offices and the language that the technical staff is using in the pitch. So one of our big proposals starting last year was trying to solve this big issue within the football sector is existing. And after this explanation of Ricardo, that we are seeing that with this COVID now, internet is full of free webinars, free formations, free, if not free, very cheap, small courses of different aspects that we agree and understand that is going to, must be, and they are going to be, and they are going to be more and more. The question is, but who is going to manage all these experts? Who is going to have the knowledge for understanding what a physiotherapist is telling, what a coach is saying, what a community manager wants to explain? So this is the answer. If not the answer, what we try to do is try to put a little bit of light inside this. That is what this system dynamics theory try to explain. Is not about a key factor, it's about how all the elements and their specific relationships generated of these key elements show us that a professional structure works. And I want to use an example, trying to put a little bit of light to this short explanation. So if we have this image, and I ask you, if you look at this image, you will see different graphics of different relationships about systems. These systems are the systems of the 20 teams of the last season in First Division. If you look at them, and I ask you who or what is the best relationship, there are the 20 teams, who, looking at these different systems, who is the top team there, you will be able to say to me which one is. I think there is no option of answering that question, but looking at this image that is explaining the relationships, here are teams that are on top position and teams that are fighting for not going down. So the answer comes when you put there the logos, when you put there and you now are able to see which team is looking for a specific organization. So all of us will go very fast to, oh, what is doing Real Madrid or Football Club Barcelona will be always the answer, no? This is the key, or this is the way of looking for an optimal relationship of a system for being a top team. I think this is not the answer, because you have Getafe, another very different team that with this specific relationship, he's achieving a top performance in Spanish league. So for me, and arriving to the conclusion now, what we try to explain and we try to show and we try to make people think on is need to look at the world, not trying to understand the way of there is a key factor that is making something arrive at the top level, that there are a lot of different factors and the different relationship between these elements are making that a professional structure is going to become a top structure. This is what are we looking for. I think this is one of the main objectives in education we have to give, because all of these expert webinars, all of these expert courses are going to be there, but the point is who is going to manage all of this team of expert people being together. So I put you some info of the course, of one of the courses that we are developing there. You have the PowerPoint, so we'll be open and feel free to ask all the questions you want to know. Thank you very much.
Gracias, Alejandro, and thanks for offering a complete different perspective regarding the actual challenges in not able to meet, or during these times especially, in terms of managing these technical management programs. So yeah, general request to the next speakers. I think we are running a bit short of time, so we'll try to keep it as close as 10 minutes per speaker. It would be great if you can follow the timelines. So next, I have another interesting speaker from Spain. So let us welcome Sergio Cervantes. He is the founder partner of Team Sported and Sporting Ventures in Asia. So he has this expertise of already working for huge telecom companies in Spain and Europe. And now he's into consulting even clubs like Real Madrid and Real Madrid Foundation. And they have their strong work even in Asia, in Southeast Asia, Australia, countries like even Nepal. So happy to listen to you, Sergio, and it would be great if you can throw some light on how to manage a winning locker room.
Well, thank you so much, first of all, for the invitation. And well, also thank you for all the viewers that from India and all over the world are taking their time to look at us. So basically, well, my link with football specifically is Real Madrid. So I was a professor of the school that Alejandro is now leading 12 years ago, and this is how I started working with Real Madrid. And then later I moved to the Real Madrid Foundation because the educational projects is a component that I love a lot. And now at this moment, I am a little bit more, after 7 years, I've moved a little bit to the commercial, to the partnership and to the digital side. But the history of Sported, which is the reason why I am here, also born in the Real Madrid University. Because when I was a professor in the entrepreneurship management, I met a former Real Madrid player who is today a head coach, and he was my student. Is Victor Sanchez del Amo. So we share the same passion of how sport can facilitate the education. And after many years talking, researching, and checking many cases, some of our case, in my case managing business, in his case managing football teams, we develop our own course. So in this case, I would like to have later maybe the feedback of Ricardo, because we've tried to do or to create some content from our own. And I think it's also good because in our case, in the conference today, we've been talking a lot about digital, but we like to focus a lot in the human component. At the end, the technology is managed by people, and people are the ones that perform in the football pitch, and they have their emotional situation, and this is something that is changing with up and downs in a continuous way. And this is what really motivates us to develop this kind of course and this kind of concept that we develop for 3 areas. So we've done for business. We help companies about how to use this methodology to improve the performance of their staff. We also are doing this for professional sports, mainly professional teams and youth systems. And we are also doing for families, because a family is a team, and this is where the player grow. And we consider that it's really important that parents can also know and can also be integrated in the locker room and this emotional dynamic of their kids. Okay, so this is a little bit what we've done. So let me share the screen. I think it's, I cannot.
Can you see a shared screen button there?
I am, can you see? No,
Not
I
yet.
cannot. I cannot.
Can you see a share screen button where you can?
Yeah, I can, at the security, okay. Well, sorry. No, the problem I have is that is the security of my computer, so I have to leave the meeting, which this something happened with the technology. Maybe there could be 2 things. So I can you can give the session to other speaker, or maybe I can continue without the PowerPoint, which is a shame because it's very very audiovisual and very visual, the concept that I want to share with you. So what you prefer? I can adapt to both of them.
Sergio, can you do one thing? I mean, we'll let one of the other speakers continue. You can email the PPT to me, and then I'll run it for you from here.
Okay, perfect. So let's do that. And sorry so much for the inconvenience.
No problem. Let's go ahead with the. Okay, so until Sergio's presentation is sorted, let's move on to an interesting topic: talent identification and scouting. So here we have an expert from UK, Mr. David Hobson. So he has this vast experience of working for top clubs like Manchester United. He has been their development center head and worked with the scouting team there. And he's right now the director of, the co-founder of PFSA, Professional Football Scouting Association. So yes, welcome, Mr. David. We are willing to listen to your talent identification and scouting insights, please.
Thank you very much indeed. Like I said, it's been a very interesting session with everybody. But I look at it, how I started off was when I was first started scouting. I worked for Blackburn Rovers under Graham Souness. Then I moved to Bolton Wanderers under Sam Allardyce when they was all in the Premier League. And then I went to Manchester United under Alex Ferguson for 13 years. And that was setting up development centres for the foundation phase of the players. That's the younger ones, aged 5 to 6 years of age. Then you only get to know whether you've been doing your job successfully 13 years later, when that 6-year-old child is now 19 years of age, and you've seen him go through that pathway, and he's ended up playing for the first team. Not on one occasion, on more than 5 occasions. So you get to learn the different stages of a player up to his age of an adult at 18, 19 years of age. What happened was then, when I'd done all this process, and I'd done it on a number of occasions, and I'd had players in the first two, and what the FA did, they brought out a new system called, you've probably heard of it, Elite Player Performance Plan. Now, the Elite Player Performance Plan was a system to make sure that all the clubs were doing it in the right way, and it was a pathway for English football. Well, when you got to page 72, which was the football scouts, which was me, he had on page 72, all football scouts must have a qualification. But there wasn't a qualification in the world. Nobody had a qualification. Nobody had a course. Nobody wanted to know about talent identification, talent development. So it just happened that the coach that I worked with for 13 years at Manchester United had a master's degree in talent identification and talent development. So I checked on the internet and I had a look round. I couldn't find anything, anybody else were doing anything in the world. So that's when we formed the Professional Football Scouts Association. So when we were working at Manchester United, I said to Manchester United, look, we've done this course. Can I do a course, an accredited course? At the time, it was by the NCFE, or, you know what I mean? So we had an accreditation from a college anyway. And can I present that course to the Manchester United Scouts, my fellow Scouts, and they'll get a certificate in it? Man United said, yeah, fantastic. You know, we'll go ahead with that. Then I went to Manchester City, and I had a word with Manchester City. Look, we're doing this course. Would you Scouts like to come on it? You know, you've got my experience. They all knew me as a person anyway, experience, and they all knew the tutors. So that's how we set up the first course. So really, I was the only person in the world that had taught all the Manchester United Scouts and all the Manchester City Scouts, which is one of the biggest clubs in the world and the richest clubs in the world, to find the next generation of football players for their football club. And then what happened then is, a couple of years later, we started doing these courses. Everything's going well. We had to them. Then I got a phone call to go to the FA to meet Martin Glenn, who was the chief executive of the FA at the time. And I went to see Martin Glenn. He said, come in. And actually, Roy Hodgson was there at the time. And he said, David, he said, congratulations. He said, in 150 years of football in the UK, he said, you're the first person ever to start or form a Professional Football Scouts Association. So in 150 years, not just in the UK, but all around the world, nobody bothered about the Football Scouts. Nobody knew what they did. Nobody knew how they found their players. They knew nothing about talent identification. They knew nothing about talent development. They knew nothing about the four-corner model. They didn't know what to look for in players. So what we did then is gradually, through the Professional Football Scouts Association and my knowledge and all the professional people that I met in the game and all the old people from, you know, the old scouts from the 1950s, 60s, 70s that were like, I don't know, getting on in age, you know, there was 70s and 80s. But all that information was never gathered by anybody. They just come, put the players into the football club. Thank you very much for all you've done. See you later. And then that player went on. There was no organisation, there were no rules, there were no regulations. So this is what we started to do with the Professional Football Scouts Association. And lucky enough, we were the first people anyway to start doing online courses. So we did our online courses, an introduction to talent identification. Then it went on, we did a level 2, which was classroom based. Then we did opposition and analysis. We've got a new course out now, tactical scouting. So what happened with the coronavirus was everybody was at home and they was all thinking, what can we do next? So they all learnt about our courses. So our courses now, we decided to put our level 2 online also at the same time. And the level 2 course now in football scouting is absolutely full until September. You know, and we're doing Zoom, we're doing webinars, we've got experts coming in all the time, you know, to meetings, and we're breaking it up. So we've just gone and got bigger and bigger. Now, what happened then was, after I went to see the FA in 2015, the FA then started to do talent identification, talent development, level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, level 5. I mean, and then I didn't have a problem with that, because all my ambition is to make it so a football scout was seen as somebody useful to a football club. And it wasn't. Nobody listened to a football scout's information. Nobody knew. So what I tried to do is, now with the FA doing that, that's fine. But what I've done in theory is make them look after the football scouts and what the football scouts do. They're educating the football scouts, so they're all working together. They're educating coaches, so the coaches know what the football scouts are thinking. They're all on the same pathway. Because you can't have a football scout and a football coach that are not working together. Because what happens with, and what I found over the years, I was an expert in talent identification and talent development. I'd take a player into the football club, and then a coach with no qualifications in talent identification, and I've done hundreds and thousands of games, I'd say he's not good enough. But what that coach didn't take into account was the part talent development. It was his job to develop the player. I could see the player, and I could see what attributes he had, and I could see where he's going further down the line, because the coach that I work with, I've seen the level of performance of that player, what he should be at. And I've seen a lot of players in the ages of 6 years of age. What happened then is we expanded a little bit more. I'm now at present working with the Egyptian government, the sports minister, and what we're doing is we're doing a project called Stars of Egypt. Now, the Stars of Egypt project is for the government to build development centres, 22 development centres around Egypt. And it's my job to train the coaches to become scouts as well as coaches, because even when you've trained a football scout to do talent identification, talent development, and he's got his certificate and he's now qualified, what does he do next? Well, we have a scouting network where they come on, and what they do is, we work for a lot of football clubs, so the football clubs, they leave the tickets on the gate. The new scout then goes out to the football match, does a report for Tranmere Rovers, Tottenham, whatever it is, yeah, and then he's getting experience as we go along. But at the same time, all them football scouts have got to have rules and regulations. So if you've got a certificate, you've got to know how to approach a club. You can't just run on the pitch also when it's an amateur football game and say he's a good player, grab him. You know what I mean? So they've got to have rules and regulations. But at the same time, if you do it properly, at the moment, like they did in the UK, which I was proud of, they'll do the same in Egypt. And it's a new revenue stream. It's a new revenue stream, because what you've got to do is not just go to the country and say to the country, oh, I can do this, and it'll cost you £5,000. You need to leave something that they can then work on and make it bigger and bigger, and then reinvest that money back in their own country or their own community or their own area. So, you know, I'd like at some point that, you know, you look at owners of football clubs and they don't realise that the most important person to them is the football scout. Because if the football scout doesn't bring you a player, nobody's going to do the job. And the football scout is the only person that's going to make you a lot of money, because he can bring you a young player in, and it's been done. I mean, I've done it in Manchester United Football Club. Take a player in and they sell him for 100 million. So the education the education to the coaches and to the scouts is paramount. And these scouts should be looked after so that everybody else can do the jobs. And with the technology that's coming in now, there's so many different things that you can use to make it so that clubs even save more money by you having a system there where a player has either used a GPS tracking system or they've used technology, and they've said, well, right, okay, this player now can run at 25 mile an hour. He's kicked the ball 15 times with his right foot, left foot, and then he can use this knowledge if it's put out there properly. You can use this then to place that player into different parts of your own football team or another football team. And that's something, again, because I found that a lot of people that have done our online courses during the coronavirus are very, very important people at big football clubs that me personally thought would have known about talent identification, match analysis, tactical scouting, you know what I mean, all them sort of things. But they did our course. Maybe they might have wanted to refresh themselves in certain areas. Yeah, that's fine. But I found it really interesting today, listening to you people in other different sectors, how you talk about different things and what you do, but because I've always really tried to concentrate on my department, if you understand what I mean. And I didn't really know much about these other things, but it's exciting to see the ideas that you're all coming up with and what you're all doing, and if there's anything anywhere along the line that I can help with, I mean, I'm doing a bit of work with, as a partner, education partner, Sports in Pro, with our online courses. But again, once these people have done these online courses, you can't just have them running round India just with a certificate. We need to put something in place, or Football Federation needs to put something in place where they monitor these people and then they regulate these people, and then eventually it probably make the Indian people, maybe the national teams might get a little bit, a bit more recognition. And the Indian players might get a bit more recognition, because at the moment also there's lots of areas that even the professional football clubs don't look at. I mean, I'm specifically working now with one of the only people in the world, and I don't know whether you know this person, he's called Thomas Gronberg. Now, Thomas is the world's longest throwing champion of the Guinness Book of Records. Now, also, for the last 3 years, he's worked with Liverpool and Jurgen Klopp, yeah, and they've worked on Liverpool's throw-ins and spaces and things like that. Now, I go to other football clubs, and again, this is another area where nobody, I've never seen anybody do throwing training. Only years in football, you don't see them doing throwing training. But in a game, there's at least 40 throw-ins. Again, these are all areas that, as a football scout, again, that we'll get this information, add it onto our courses at the same time, what we do, and say, look, if somebody's got this special talent, yeah, and he can throw it this far, if you do this and you do that, and do it this way, your throw can increase. And also at the same time, you're helping the player, you're helping the scout look at the player, and you've got some of the best people in the world behind you.
Yep.
Well, that's like I said, any questions or anything?
Yes, David. Thank you so much for taking us through your entire history regarding how Small Spark helped you start a small entity, and now you're even doing work in Egypt. And I'm sure for a country like India, we have to do enormous work in terms of talent identification. I'm pretty sure like a lot of delegates would be interested in taking up courses like talent identification program with BFSA. yeah, we'll come back to you the doubts later when we are having those sessions. I just want to know if Sergio, are you ready with your presentation?
I don't know if you received the
Uh,
PowerPoint.
just a second.
Maybe I don't think that.
Just receive the PPT. Just continue with the next two speakers, and
All right.
then the last Sergio will come.
Okay, so I think we are incredibly shooting over of time, and so requesting next speakers to please cut short by like 5 to 7 minutes, please, to be great. Thank you. And next we have an interesting speaker, especially because she is a women's football agent, and she has a UFRP license coaching license, and she is particularly famous for her playing career in futsal too, and I guess she's from Catalonia. Welcome, Carlota.
Thank you all. A very interesting session indeed, as all of you said. It's a pleasure being with all of you today and with all the attendees and participants who are online. So thank you very much, and I'll pass to the presentation. I know we are short of time, so I'll try to keep it short, but today I'll talk about women's football and how the soccer management in women's football has changed in the last few years and how COVID has affected the sector, but how we can develop new ways of promoting the sports out of this opportunity. So I'll just share my presentation with you. Second. Let me see if you can see it. Can you see it?
Yes.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Yes, we can.
So yeah, today, as I said, I'm talking about sports management in women's football. I'm, as you kindly said, Kumar, I'm a women's football agent and a marketing expert. I've worked in the sector for the past 7 years, and I've seen how the industry has changed, especially over the last 5 years. So I'm going to do I'll explain a bit about my biography. I'm a journalist and I studied also business administration, so I have a double degree. I'm specialized in sports management and marketing, and I began my professional career writing for the Spanish sports newspaper, Diario AS, covering all the information for FC Barcelona. So that's how I started. I covered all the games, the trainings, all the press conferences for Diario AS, and I went there for 2 years. After that, I saw that I wanted to see new things, and I went to Africa to coordinate an international scouting project. So I felt, with David Hobson's speech, I felt very identified because we had those type of problems there with talent identification. It was with men's, not women, on this project, but we saw lots of lack of courses and of people that already had the knowledge to detect the talent and afterwards develop that talent. So as David said, I see it as two things as well, especially for female athletes, which there's not specialized training and we're not still using specific methods to detect the talent there. After my phase as a scout, I decided to found the first marketing agency for female athletes in Spain, which was called Universal. I worked there for 2 years. We managed to represent 120 athletes. All of them had sports sponsorships signed by us. And we did marketing campaigns for and with nearly all of them. So there we saw how the industry was shifting and how interest towards female athletes was increasing, both in the fans and for the brands. So this year I had the opportunity to find my real passion, which is the management side, and I founded Unique Sports Management, which will start the 1st of July. It's a management and marketing agency where we seek to deliver world-class opportunities for female football players. So now I'm focusing only in football, and I'm trying to get these opportunities both in the field and out of the field to all our players. And as a fact, also I'm a OFB football coach, and I've trained and coached for the last 10 years at different levels. So I'd like to give a bit of facts for those who are listening. In recent years, the sport has experienced an impressive evolution, as I told you. 84% of sports fans have interest in women's sports. This is a Nielsen report. So there we saw that with this high percentage, we had lots of chances of engaging brands and other companies to invest in the women's sports sector. As a fact as well, on the FIFA Women's World Cup, we had 1 billion viewers, which was also like a record-breaking number for the industry. And we had an assistance at the FC Barcelona Atlético de Madrid Women's Clásico of more than 60,000 people on the game. That was also a very groundbreaking record for us because until now the assistance was not more than 5,000 to 10,000. So that 60,000 really showed us that there was real interest from all the fans. Also, there was a 35% attendance increase per year at women's sporting events. That's also a Nielsen fact from their last report from 2019. So we saw that increase in attendance also in general sports, not only football. And lastly, there's 2 facts that I would like to highlight. One, that women's sports is has a gender balanced audience, contrary to what lots of people think. There's a 51-49% of interest, so not only women are interested in women's sports, but also there's a very high percentage of men who are also interested in them. And then the Nike's revenues in the women's sector was 7.4 billion. An interesting fact there is that the t-shirt which was most sold for Nike's history was the US women's national team t-shirt on 2019. That also gave us another fact to get on and see that women's sports has the fans, has the interest. We just have to promote it and help it grow. So, being on the facts, as I told you, the interest in football overall in population is 44%, and then we see that from those 45%, 36% say that are interested in women's football. That gives us, with the data, that 60% of the total population are interested in women's football. That's more than overall interest in golf, for example. It's part of the Nielsen studio as well. I think that gives us a picture of how much we have in the industry to explore and to exploit, both from the teams to the brands, the sponsors, and to everyone involved in the industry, because we have a market interest there. You can see some data as well I chose to show you today. There are 13.36 million girls and women playing organized football around the world. On the FIFA Women's World Cup final last year, there were 5,700 spectators, and 84% of general sports fans are interested in women's sports. So that's a huge amount of people. There we have a very big fan base for where to work, and we only need the structure and the means to do so. Also, as a last note, the announced sponsorship deals have increased by 37%, and the average monetary value of these deals have increased by 50%, meaning that we are on the right path. So how COVID has affected the situation of women's football, or what we can expect from now on? We are more vulnerable than men's football, so our progress that I've shown you before is at risk now, if not proper actions are taken to protect the sport, as we have less opportunities, less corporate investment, and uneven sponsorship deals. This means that the cash reserves are lower, and that we can't face the situation the same as men's football, meaning that, of course, we are more vulnerable, and now it's at risk, so we need to take actions. This is also mean because we have less established professional leagues. There are lower salaries for the players. There's a lack of professional contracts still. It's true that in the main league, Spain, England, US, Germany, the majority of the players have professional contracts, but there's still a lack worldwide of this type of conditions. And there's an absence of basic protections. So overall, situation is of uncertainty as well as men's, but we have these conditions that make it less easy for us for women's soccer to be able to turn where it was. But there are also news for hope. Like FIFA confirmed a 1 billion investment for the women's game, which is a very good news for the sector. And the world's best clubs have signed historical changing contracts, as I said, on the main leagues: US, Spain, France, and UK. Even UK has signed this year lots of contracts for players and have extended contracts for very important players. So moving on, this is unique. That's the agency where it was born this year with all the COVID situation. So we're trying to adapt what we are offering to the players to the new situation. Our mission is to professionalize the management of women's football in Europe, especially, but around the world. And to do that, I throw a question: what can be done to increase participation and promote women's sport? So we have some solutions, which starts with the grassroots programs that we offer. One of them is the scouting projects, because there are lots of girls and young women that play very well, are very good at sport, like the sport, but are not being seen or don't have the chance to be scouted. So there's a niche there of scouting girls that can end up being top players in 4 or 5 years. So we're trying to introduce these programs around the world. In India, for example, we've worked with a couple of schools. So we're trying to promote the sport by doing competitions and events to scout girls that can play. Also, we help teams build their grassroots structure. We offer specialized training sessions, coaches who are prepared and who are specialized in women's football and on developing the characteristics of women. And we also have an action plan for the marketing side of having this type of academies or grassroots teams which are not professional, because we need to get to the girls, we need to communicate that this exists. So we offer a full service for entities or clubs that want to invest in grassroots teams for women. On the other side, we have the professional teams. We have the same type of offering, but with the difference that we have sports management as well, to help detect and sign players not only locally but internationally, which this is key to develop the sector and all the teams, as not always the best talent is local, which of course is the main focus of each team, but you also have to get international talent and be able to see it detected and sign it. We also seek for sponsorship opportunities for the clubs, as this is a very big revenue for the men's football, and it has to be the main one for the women's as well. It helps all the structure work, as for now ticketing is not the main, as in men's it is, but in women it's not the main entry of money. So we need to get these sponsorship opportunities and focus on the marketing strategy to be able to succeed. And lastly, we also have educational programs. We create tailor-made online or face-to-face courses for anyone that's interested in developing their skills in women's football, both coaches, coaches to scouts, to physicians, anyone involved in the industry and that has any special interest in knowing what's the difference between detecting or coaching women and men. That's what we're trying to educate everyone on that, because we think that's one of the main things that still have to be done. As well, we organize summits and conferences like this to promote the sport and reach everyone that's interested in learning more, or even in we sometimes get petitions of countries that, for example, they still see football as a men's sport, and we try to bring professional female athletes so they can see that there's a way in football as well for women. That's a very good way of living. They can reach, they can study, and they can have new opportunities for their life. At last, we have the activities related to sport and women. We make workshops, camps, and master classes with pro players in order to reach the fans and the audience and promote sport. So here is a bit of our credentials. We've worked with Barcelona, Real Madrid, Milan, Juventus, Atletico de Madrid, Roma, and other important football clubs to sign players, develop their sections, or help with their marketing strategies. We also work with the main sports brands, so Nike, Puma, Reebok, Adidas, Umbro, and other local entities. And also we've collaborated with companies from other sectors that have been interested in investing in women's football, like Google, Pepsi, Quilmes, or Sprinter. So this is a bit of a resume about what we do, what we can do for all the entities and sports people who are interested in the women's part. And about COVID, as I said, we think that the sector is much more vulnerable than the men for the reasons I explained. And the only thing we can do is try and take some actions, like FIFA's action of doing investment, of helping the clubs, and making it easier for everyone to be able to have access to the sport. So thank you very much. This is my email. Anyone wants to email me, and my Instagram account. Also, I have a LinkedIn, which is Carlota Planas. So any question or anyone wants to enter in contact, don't hesitate to email me. So thank you very much for listening. I hope I went quick, but I hope it's been understandable. And I'll be here around as well as the panel finishes. So any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Gracias, Carlota Planas. It was very enriching. First of all, your journey as a women agent is very inspiring. I think not many people would be very inspired towards that. And it's nice to see that you're offering a very good package. It's not fair to see Eibar not there. Eibar is there in La Liga Iberdrola this year, so hopefully we'll also be able to work with you soon. Moving on to the next speaker, we have an eminent Dr. Errol Sweeney. He is an ex-FIFA World Cup referee, and he's a top broadcaster, and he has separate blogs in South Africa. And it would be very nice to listen to you, sir, regarding what are the development structures for referees. How do the referee programs happen in Ireland or in the global scenes?
Good afternoon, and thank you very much. It's good afternoon here in Ireland. I'm sure it's evening elsewhere, particularly in India. We are the most western country in Europe. In fact, if you jump into the sea on the west of Ireland and start swimming, you'll probably hit New York in about 20 years' time if you survive that long. I've been involved in refereeing most of my life. In fact, for the last 50 years, to be quite honest. I started refereeing in the year 1970-71 season. And I got into refereeing purely by chance. I'm a music teacher as well. And at that time, I was preparing for exams, and I was playing an amateur match. I played football, but at a very low level. And I got tackled and went down on my arm. I got a slight sprain in my left wrist, and I had an exam coming up 2 months later. And it scared me that I could have broken my wrist and therefore missed that exam. So I thought, uh-oh, I'm going to stop this. And then purely by chance, I got talking to probably the best referee that ever came out of Ireland. That's the Republic of Ireland. There's a man called John Carpenter. And he said to me, why don't you come in and join the referees? And I thought, well, actually, I'd never thought about that. But I did. And as they said, the rest is history. Just to give you a brief rundown on that history, I started refereeing 70-71. And there's constant and regular assessments and inspections of referees for promotion to the higher leagues. And in my 4th year, I was assessed doing a cup match on my own, by the way, because that's quite common here in the lower leagues. Referees, we don't have enough referees to go around, and that's quite a common problem around the world. There aren't enough referees. So many times referees referee on their own without assistants or linesmen, as they used to call them. And I was being assessed this day, and the assessor obviously was quite pleased with me. And this was around April, May, I think. And as a result of that, he recommended me for promotion to the senior panel. And I went to the senior panel meeting and went through all the various tests, the written and physical tests and so on, and passed them all. And so I was promoted to the senior panel in 1975. Now, the economy in this country was very bad coming into the 80s. And so I had to leave. I had a wife and 4 children. The economy was bad, jobs were bad. In fact, at one time I had 2 or 3 different small jobs, no regular job, and just to keep us going. So I decided we had to move, and we moved to South Africa in 1985. Now, we didn't go blind, as it were, because my sister was already there, and she said, look, if you want work and you're prepared to work, come out here. It's a good place to be. So off we went, a wife, 4 children, head full of dreams, suitcase full of clothes, and £5 in our pocket. So we really were starting from scratch. But I immediately got involved with the referees out there and was accepted onto their senior panel, first of all on the line, running the line. But they're obviously impressed with me because after my first year, they gave me to run they let me run the line in the their FA Cup final in that year. And so it progressed, and then I went on to do their cup final in 1988. I was referee of the year 1991. I was referee of the year, which is voted on by the journalists, 1992. And then Manchester United and Arsenal came to South Africa in 1993. I was appointed to referee the game, and I don't know if any of you can look back that far, but I had occasion to red card the then Man United captain and England captain Brian Robson for foul and abusive language, which under Law 12 was a straight red card, and there was consternation, and I got criticised left, right and centre. But Law 12 says foul and abusive language is a straight red card. It has since been downgraded, by the way, to a yellow card. So, and then I went on, continued refereeing, did other high-class finals. In fact, one was a charity final. They had what they call the Charity Spectacular, which is very similar to the English Charity Shield. And it was estimated that there were 110,000 people at the game. So that's probably my biggest game. So shortly after that, then, refereeing in South Africa wasn't in a great shape. It needed a good lift and needed better organization. So I was invited by the then National Soccer League, which later became the Premier Soccer League, which is this badge here I have, and asked to come in and take charge of the referees and to train them. So I reluctantly agreed because I still had a couple of years to go before retiring. And I got stuck into that job, and I had written, I had done several works on, how to improve refereeing. I've written several papers. There's another one I did. These are just the covers now. Obviously, it's quite a big volume. And then I did another one, refereeing in the 21st century, all again to do with refereeing. It's been a passion of mine, refereeing for all that time. But for those who are starting off, you can't just walk into a final or walk into a Premier League. You have to start off at the bottom. There's a lot of training to be done. There's a lot of learning of the laws to be done. And I wonder how many players around the world actually know how many laws there are in what they call association football, or soccer as we call it. There are 17 laws. Obviously, there are different sections within those laws, and right from the start, from the field of play and the measurements, because the lines on the field, they have to be a certain measurement, and those measurements have to line up with the uprights and the goals and so on. There's a 6-yard box, what we call it, the 18-yard box. We've now gone very metric, of course, but it used to be the 6-yard box, it used to be the 18-yard box, etc., etc. And you need to know all of those things, right through players' equipment, what they're allowed to wear, how many players are allowed. Law 5 deals with the referee's responsibilities and all his powers and so on. And I always say to referees, and I used to say to the referees, you have the power, use it, but never abuse it. But at the same time, don't be afraid to pull out your yellow and red card if you need to pull it out. And then they graduate up into the higher leagues, and eventually, hopefully, for a lot of referees a small number of referees, onto the FIFA international list. And that's where the glory, if you like, comes. That's where the benefits of it are, because you get international trips, you get invited to the Olympic Games, you get invited to the World Cups, you get invited to Confederation Cups, etc. The guys I have trained in 1998, South Africa had a team of 3 officials, referee and 2 assistant referees, or linesmen as they used to call them. That's the first time ever that FIFA invited an entire team of 3 from any country to the World Cup. In the past, it had been a referee, maybe, and a linesman, or 2 linesmen, but never a team of 3. And I was very happy that my guys got there. And the 3 guys were Ian McLeod, who sadly has since passed away, Ari Soldatus, who's still involved with refereeing and match appointments, and Ahmed Salih, the other assistant from Cape Town. Now, Ahmed Salih went on to run the line in the 1998 final in Paris between France and Brazil. And I was so happy for him. Obviously, I was happy for myself because I had coached and mentored him all the way along. And he now reached the pinnacle of his career. And that was a fantastic achievement for him, especially. But I was glad to be part of it. There are a lot of new changes happening in the laws of the game now. And some of them, I think, are happening too quick. Some of them are probably not even necessary. But the biggest controversy at the moment appears to be the VAR, the Video Assistant Referee. Now, there's actually nothing wrong with the system. And I've been advocating for this VAR system way back, that there needs to be something there to help the referees to be able to come to the correct decision. Because at the end of the day, remember this here, this is only skin and bone. And it doesn't matter what color you are, it's still only skin and bone, and there's blood in there. And underneath the skin, we're all the same. The blood is still red, etc., etc. And so the point I'm getting to is we make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes, and that's the way it is. And will continue to be. You know why? Because we're human beings, and human beings make mistakes. There's a saying that says, to err is human, to forgive is divine. And referees get hammered left, right, and center. And I actually thought, wouldn't it be a great idea if we had some way that a referee could look at a situation after it happened, something controversial, so that he could then go and say, you know what, I actually got that wrong. This is the way it should be. And I could never understand why they couldn't bring that in much quicker than they did, because the facilities are there. You watch any soccer match, and that match is replayed over and over and over again from heaven knows how many different angles. So why couldn't they have brought that in before? And then suddenly it comes in. But now the English system seems to be different, or they're approaching it differently than every other country. One of the biggest complaints about the VAR system, the Video Assistant Referee, is that it takes too long to arrive at a decision. Because first of all, the referee has to do this, and then the guy upstairs or wherever he is, the other video assistant referees, they then have to look at it and it's inspected and so on and so on and so on. And I thought, my goodness, this is causing frustration. It doesn't take that long in rugby. It doesn't take that long in cricket. It doesn't take that long in tennis. Why does it take so long in soccer or football? So my suggestion would be, and I've already sent this suggestion in, but I haven't heard anything back. Why, with the video at the side of the field where the referee is supposed to go and have a look, why doesn't he go there at the same time that the guy up in the outside broadcast van is also looking at it. And together, they could then agree yes or no. Because what happens now, the protocol, particularly in England, and I could say things about English refereeing, but I won't at the moment. They wait, they do the thing, say, okay, we're going to look at it. And then the referee stands around and he's waiting and he's waiting and he's waiting while the guy upstairs is making a decision. Finally, the decision comes down. The referee said, oh, I'm not sure about that. Then he's got to go and look at the replay on the screen. Why couldn't they do that together? In principle, the VAR system is good, and I agree with it. And there are people who will complain and say, no, 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 it's slowing the game down. Football is a fast-moving game, and it's the excitement, and so on and so on. And in fact, there even have been calls for VAR to be abolished, abandoned. But if that's going to be the case, then you have to stop the television companies doing replays, because they will continue to replay. And where the referee only, in the normal course of events, he only has one chance to look at that incident. So he's effectively, he's the policeman, he's the judge, and he's the jury, and he's the executioner. He has to make a decision, all in the space of literally a split second. But you know, in most instances, your gut instinct is the correct one, because you see an incident, you make a decision, and generally it is the correct decision. Now, yes. Just one other point I want to finish on, and this really annoys me so much, is the amount of cheating and diving and deceitfulness that's going on. And there I point the fingers at ourselves, at the referees. Why are we allowing that to happen? I can see it on the television, first instance, that the guys are diving, they're cheating, they're not being truthful, and yet the referees are giving free kicks. And this is where I think the referees need to be stronger, they need to be firmer, and they need to make decisions regardless of how popular those decisions are going to be. They have to make those decisions. And sadly, in my opinion, they are not. What I want to finish on quickly is that when referees retire, they shouldn't just fade away. They should stay involved in the game. There are so many young up-and-coming referees. They need to be tutored, they need to be mentored, they need to be coached. And there's no better people to do it than ex-referees who have been there and have the experience. I enjoy giving seminars, I enjoy giving talks, I enjoy going out on the field, watching matches, and being able to mentor and coach young up-and-coming referees. They need our help. They need it now, and we shouldn't be found wanting. One final point. I have been asked, can ex-players become referees? Absolutely yes, why not? But they mustn't come in thinking that because they played the game, they know the game. Two different aspects. They need to go through a whole refereeing course and see how it's done. It's a totally different story. They're looking at it from a player's point of view. They need to come and look at it from a refereeing point of view. And if they do, I would suggest that their whole perspective on referees and refereeing will change. Thank you.
Thank you, Errol, Dr. Errol. It was very enlightening. I mean, there are a lot of delegates who are interested in refereeing from this discussion as well. I think it was a brilliant masterclass. Hopefully, they'll be able to take your guidelines and proceed forward. Over to Himanshu and Sergio. Are we fine to go with Sergio, sir?
Yeah, so I'll set up the presentation for Sergio. Sergio, when you're finished with the slide, just tell me to move on and I'll do that.
Okay, perfect. Sorry so much for the technology issue.
That's no issue at all. Yeah, I hope everyone can view this.
Okay. Yeah. So, yeah. Okay. So basically, this is the title of the course, and basically is how to manage talent and towards high performance. So we can move on to the next slide. This is the goal of the course that we've designed, and basically for us, winning teams are not the ones that win. It's in a sport is impossible. It's the one that learns and is continue doing an evolution with the experience that this human group is having on the road. Okay, so we can move on to the next slide. Yep. Okay, this is our goal: how to organize talent and create winning teams with this definition. Winning is not the final result. Winning is the process and how we grow together. So basically, if we move on to the next slide. And when we have a team, we have a beginning, we have a goal and a road to do together, but we have to know that this is not going to be a linear road. We are going to have ups and downs, victories, defeats, problems, and we are going to move in a volatile environment because our opponent are going to unbalance the situation and many factors. It did now with COVID is a factor that nobody expects, but we have to be ready to react. Luckily, people with a sport culture, we are much more ready to react to this kind of situation. It's something that we grow together when we practice sport. But as human beings, we have to manage expectation, and the fear management is something that is inside the sport industry, but is also inside the human behavior. And normally, we will talk later, for this road, we prefer people that play with humility, that they are hungry and work with empathy. But we can move on to the next slide. So basically, in our way, when we have to start is winning is impossible to secure. But when we are working with a team, we have to do absolutely everything that is in our hand to create the best conditions for the success of our team and for this learning experience. The training process and the learning culture is what is going to give us more chance to try to reach this goal. Okay, so we can move, and this is especially very important. This is something I want to highlight, especially for India. I've been living in United Arab Emirates, and also I've been living in Singapore and in many countries in Asia, and governments. When you talk with many people involved in governments, they want to secure the results. And in sport, it's impossible. You have to provide the best conditions, and especially in these countries, politics and many things were moving towards the final results and not towards the process. So in the case of India, is one advice I would like to share with you. It's a matter to improve the industry, to improve the resource, to improve the people, to improve the skills, to improve the technology. And we will have, in the case of India, you will have more chance to achieve better results. So we can move to the next one. Okay, previous one. Okay, so basically, what we've done, this is something that I've developed with Victor, who is my partner here, is a tool. Okay, so for this course, we've been thinking, we've been in many lectures, in many conferences, and we wanted to avoid the situation to create case studies. We use case study to teach our teams, to teach our students to use a tool and be useful for them in the daily life, and to manage their teams or to be part of the team as a team member. So basically what we've done is to select a bicycle as a metaphor and a tool to try to drive this performance. And why a bicycle? Basically, because if we don't set up the destination before starting, we are going to lose the performance. Okay, so we need to keep always our life and our teams in balance. So if we move to the next one, the next one is the previous one is well, basically the starting process is more difficult. So when we start a project, it's the previous one. When we start a project, we need to know that our team needs time to work together. So as leaders, as mentors, and as teammates, we need to know that it takes time. Okay, and this is the reason why we've chosen this picture. So then, if we move on for the next one, everybody is really good and everybody is prepared for victories, but not everybody is prepared for defeats. When in defeats, you can see the real character of your teammates, and it's also when you learn much more. Okay, so this is also something that want to share is in the defeats, you are alone, but also in the defeats is when you learn much more. And also the last one is, so if we go together as a team, the power of the team is going to move us further. If you want to go fast, you can go alone. But as a team, we are going to fight with all the circumstances together. So if we move on a little bit more, we are going to see the different part of the bicycle. So we can move to the next slide.
All this and this, all that.
Okay. So this is for us the generation of the culture. So the culture drive expectation and beliefs. The expectation and beliefs drive our behavior. Behavior drive our habits, and the habits is what create the future. Okay, and this is the culture. So if moving on for the next slide, please.
Yeah, but if you can follow, you know, they just.
So, and when we are in the road is what I said, shared with you before. So we are going to have up and downs, some victories in red, some defeats in green, some defeats in red, and we are going to know. We need to know that our teammates and we change our mood and our emotional situation depending on how we are performing, and we need to predict how our team and us are going to work in different situations. So if we move on, because we will go later to this slide, we can see, okay, this is a little bit, this is our bicycle. This is a little bit difficult, okay? When you see the first picture, there are too many concepts. Of course, human behavior is complex, and this is the experience of our last 20, 25 years there. But let me try to go deeper. We are going to split this bicycle in 3 components. If we go to the leadership part, this is the front side. There is a middle side where we have the communication, consistency. This is the transmission side, and the back side is the traction side. Okay, so let's move on, because in the following slides, I've split it. So the first part of the bicycle is the leadership. Of course, we need, and in the organization, we have the CEOs, the coach, and the one who put what is the direction of the team. And there are 4 components of the bicycle: the character, okay, the character of our teammates and our character, the common cause, the credibility, and the commitment. If you see, everything starts with C. For us, these are the main components that we need to create adhesion, okay, to create teams. Okay, so if we move on for the next slide, you will see. So character is who do we welcome in our locker room. And we have 4 components that beyond talent, we are looking always to it. Humility, because humility is the capacity to learn. If you live in the past or in your last success, you are losing the future. So we want players that are humble. We want hunger, because we want to achieve more. We want players in our locker room that need to achieve more. We need players with empathy to understand the situation of their teammates, to understand the situation of the coach, to understand the situation of their boss, and to understand the situation of everybody that they're working and connecting. And we need also people with courage. Why? Because for victories, everybody is ready to celebrate. But when we have defeats and we commit mistakes, we are alone. And if we don't have this capacity, it's going to be really difficult to overcome this kind of situation. Then if we move to the second C of this leadership part, is the common cause. So we can move to the next slide. Is the common cause. Is what make our team be united? What is our desire? What do we see together? Okay, we can move to the next one. Okay. This is why we are united. What is our vision? What is our goal? As clear is our common cause, more united is going to be the team. And this is something that the leaders has to identify. We need people who motivate, who develop their emotions toward this vision. Then we go to the third C, which is the credibility. For us, credibility in terms of human performance and team's performance is very important, and as important sometimes as, well, more than indeed technology. Why? Because technology increases our productivity, but credibility is what develops teamwork. And credibility is something very, very difficult to develop, and you can lose in one day. And without this credibility, this coherence, these values, this consistency in the behavior, it's going to be very difficult that you can drive your team as a leader or indeed as a teammate. And the fourth one is the commitment. If you are committed with your team, you are ready to serve. It's the only way to have your teammates and the team connected. So then, if we move to the next slide, we go to the to the next slide, please. Okay. After the first component, the first part of the bicycle with these 4 factors, okay, we have our team moving on, but now we need the transmission. How we transfer absolutely everything in the vision of the leadership team towards the rest of the people of the locker room to involve them in our common cause, okay? And this is what we consider the next 3 C's: the communication, the captains, and the consistency. So we can move on to the next, to the next slide, please. And we've put communication in the middle, okay? Why? Because this part of the bike connects absolutely everything, okay? And the communication should be continual, bidirectional, and it lets the team connected. If we don't have proper communication, or if the communication is stopped, the negativity is going to start filling the locker room. The communication is the oil that keeps our team together, okay? Then we have the captains, and we've put the captains in the change of the bicycle. Why? Because it's also bidirectional. The captains are the middle manager that transfer the vision of the leadership to the rest of the team. But it's also bidirectional because if the leaders, they don't have the feedback of the rest of the team, the performance is going to be impacted. And this is the reason why we put the captain's component in the change of the bicycle, because it's also bidirectional. And the last C in the transmission part is the consistency. And for us, consistency is that we have to be predictable. Everybody in the locker room, predictable, indeed, with more responsibility, the coach and the people with more importance, because we cannot accelerate one day. We cannot be one day very emotional, very happy, and the next day our mood can change. Why? Because without knowing, the rest of the people that we are working for, they're going to be waiting. Hey, how is my partner? How is my teammate? How is my boss? Or how is my coach coming today to the locker room? But if we know, if we are predictable, if we have a continuous and a consistency rhythm, we are going to contribute to develop a consistent performance. If we accelerate some days, then we have to stop some days. So it's much better to keep a consistent rhythm. And then the last part is if we move to the traction side, which is the last part, we can move to the last part of the bike. We can move to the next slide, please. Okay, and this is when we have the team connected. Okay. Yeah. When the bicycle is moving properly, and we have to optimize the performance of the team because the team is already connected. So there are 2 last C's. The first one is the contagious. We can move to the next one. And the contagious could be positive, but sometimes could be negative. And when we have our team performance, we have to check how is the mood of every single member of our team, and also the collective mood. For example, when a coach nominated the 11th, we know that the rest of the people are not happy. They are negative source of energy, and as managers, we have to take more care of them to try to convert them into positive influence for the rest of the team. If we leave the problem, the negativity can impact the whole locker room, and then it's going to impact the performance of the team, and the problem is going to be bigger. So one of the strategies that we do is try to take care of the negativity source of the locker room. If we control and if we can overcome the negativity source of the locker room, okay, we only are giving a space for positiveness, okay? And if we identify a negative source that cannot change to positive, okay, we need to put them out of the locker room, because if not, they're going to kill the team, okay? And the last one is the care component, is the human factor. We need to see our teammates, to see our partners beyond just their skills and the specific performance. They are people, they have their own problems, they have their families, and we have to go beyond. If we take care of them as human, they're going to take care of the team, okay? And this human component into the extra mile, into the love level, is what makes the better teams performs in a longer period. Okay, so this is the 9 components of the bicycle model. Okay, and we've structured in 3 parts: the leadership part, the transmission part, and the traction side. So if we move to the next one, yeah, okay. We have all the C's, but we also have the bad threats. So for example, when we have a victory, we have the complacency and the comfort zone very close to us. So we have to analyze the dynamic also of the results to predict the behavior of our team, okay? But when we have a losing trend, we also have to be aware that the energy vampires of the locker room,
I'm afraid if we have lost his voice.
Sergio, we can't seem to hear you.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, so basically what I was sharing is that when we have defeat, when we suffer some defeats, we need the energy of vampires. We have the cowardice situation. Is a natural situation of our teammates, of our human being, and only with consistency and the coaching and the learning experience that we have before is the way that we can overcome this downtrend in better performance. Okay, so this is we've used the bicycle as a way to organize our learning experience, and also as a way to analyze how our team is, in which situation is, and also how to predict how our teammates and the group is going to behave. Okay, so this is the 2 components of the bike. The bike by itself, and when the bike is moving, the learning experience that we are putting in every single C, and also how we try to predict the human behavior depending on the external situation that can impact the group. So if we move on to the next one, very fast. To the next slide, please. Yeah, well, basically, this is what we say. Is complacency is the biggest enemy of high performance, and the consistency, although it's something that is done day by day, is what brings great rewards. So basically, if we move on to the last 2 ones, this is the pyramid of dysfunctional teams. When there is no confidence, there is no trust, people don't participate, there is no commitment, and at the end, no responsibility, and the me is above the we. This is the situation of our Spanish team that lose in the last World Cup. We lose the coach 2 or 3 days before, we lose the leadership. So the bicycle model in our Spanish national team was really impacted because we lose the front wheel of the bicycle. But if we move on to the next one, there is an example of top functional teams, which is a case study that we've analyzed. and this is the New Zealand rugby team, the All Blacks. They can lose like in the last World Cup, but at the end there is a culture behind, a culture of participating, the confidence environment. When you develop trust, people participate in the decision making. When people participate, they commit with the decision that they take. Then they take responsibility, and the we. Okay. So then, okay, and this is also you can contact us in LinkedIn on in our website. And thank you so much for your time and for this opportunity. And at the same time, sorry so much for the technology issues.
No issues. Gracias, Sergio. I think it got little contagious towards the end with the C's. Maybe it is due to the COVID or the Corona effect as well. I'm just joking. Okay. I just take this opportunity to apologize on one of the panelists, like Shadi sir had to leave because of his commitment elsewhere. So I guess like we are fine to go towards the Q&A sessions. We have a lot of questions from the delegates ourselves, and yeah, I'm just going to throw out the question, and all the panelists, you are free to come and add your suggestions and values to it. So the first question is, how do you think in a current situation like this, we can create more jobs to hold the HR part? Can I repeat the question if you're not able to hear it at the first place?
Yep.
In a current situation like this, how is it possible to create jobs scenarios?
Is the question open for everybody, Yogaraj?
Yes, open to all the panelists. Yeah.
Well, if I would go first, I would definitely say because of the digital shift that is happening in football, that will definitely open up opportunities, either for new companies who want to get enrolled with the football industry, who want to engage with the football industry on the one hand, but also, and I'm speaking from a club point of view then, for clubs who are really wanting to enter in that digital shift, that will definitely open opportunities for young, brilliant minds who want to enter the industry with the right experience, definitely in that digital.
Right. Anybody else want to add on something? Yeah, Alejandro, please.
Totally agree with Martin. Part of our students now that we are finishing, they are very afraid because they have finished the course in a virtual situation and looking at football like if football is going to die. It's like, no, don't be afraid about that. Football is not going to die. Football is not going to disappear. Now we are getting more over and over in a technological situation. So the sport is more than 100 years history. Sports is going to continue there. But obviously, one of the points of the guys that are going inside this business is looking for the new context. Maybe before that, part of vacancies were in one way, but for example, like Martin say, nowadays technology, a lot of companies are going to appear there, a lot of new ideas in how to get close to the football. So don't be afraid, vacancies are going to be there, and are going to be more than before because we are going to use more technology than before.
All right.
I can add that, well, in my opinion, people will keep on looking for football, for soccer. So I believe that there will be a shift. Maybe some of the part of the shift will be to esports, and I believe that this industry will grow a lot in the next few years. And I believe that's something that people are looking for more information and to more skills to work in that specific industry. So I would say that would be one of the industries that will grow a lot and employ a lot of people in the future, I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, in my view is, and I am completely aligned with Alex and with Alejandro, and we are looking in first person. So we live closely Real Madrid. And of course, if we look in the next 6 months, it's not going to be a good situation because of the reality is there. But this digital transition, but also, for example, in the case of Real Madrid, the new stadium, the opportunities that the new stadium is going to generate, and also the need to monetize it in not only the stadium, also the investment that the club is doing in the last years in the digital component, and to reach further, especially to markets like India or markets like Asia. I think it's going to give a lot of opportunities. In this case, I'm quite positive after 6 months if COVID is not coming back again.
Yeah, if that is fine, then let's move on to the next question. What do you think will be the changes going forward in the structure of the management courses? What do you think will be the changes? What additions do you see coming forward?
You said the changes on management courses, is that it?
Yes, yes, yes.
I would say that this one is for Alex.
Thank you, Ricardo. For me, one of the points was one that I introduced. I understand we were in an era, in a time that all people goes through a specialization. You know, you have to be the best physical trainer, you have to be the best football coach, you have to be the best community manager, was kind of a specific place and a specific knowledge and be the best there. For me, and Ricardo said something before related with that, is about when you are looking to creative person, when you are looking to creativity and you look for the most creativity people in our history, it's not about being the best in a specific area. It's having some holistic knowledge, knowing a little bit of in that place, a little bit of other. And after that, when you look or you are in a specific place, you need to be very good in your place, but your knowledge have to be general knowledge. This was the point that I think at the same time, there are these lot of courses of specialization are appearing, like we are generating our course, for example, in Real Madrid, but sure are going to appear, and other companies are going to generate these kind of courses where you look the general picture. You know, it's not for being the best coach, but if I'm going to be the sporting director of a club, I need to understand what coach needs, what physical trainer needs, what community manager needs, what marketing needs.
Yeah. Thank you, Alex. Anything? Okay, so if that is, then moving on to the next. Now you see a lot of challenges in youth development programs, like where people struggle to get sponsorships. What suggestions do you guys have in terms of how we can make it an effective proposal from the youth development teams for sponsors? How can they make their teams attractive?
So if I understand, is making the teams, the youth team, attractive.
Yeah, I mean, like
I think, for example, UEFA is doing things. The youth league was a good idea. So these developing this kind of projects, like similar the champions, but for the under 18. So this is a good project, and there is a lot of youth international tournaments start to being developed all around the world. This situation, I think, is going to stop about COVID, because it was a situation that clubs were very easy to move to all around and bring our Celta, Real Madrid, or whatever team in Spain, for example, or England. They were playing all around the world, starting in under 12, under 13. I think the work was there. Let's see for the youth what is happening now with this COVID. But for me, COVID is something that is eventual. It's going to be 1 year, 2 years. It's not the first time that humanity will have this kind of disease. So we will recover some kind of normality.
Yeah. Okay. So moving on to the next one. I think like a lot of emphasis was put on digital content, especially by Ricardo. So the question is to you: are we overdoing it during this era, the digitization era? Do you think there is an optimal level which we can decide upon to decide on the digitization which football can hold up to, or what is your thoughts on it? Is there an optimal level we can arrive at, or we are fine?
Well, I believe that you are asking what is, well, the proportions of between
Yes.
the online and the physical education, or the in present face-to-face. Well, I said in my presentation, I believe that the world is very big and people have different needs in different places, you know. We can see that with Soccer Hub, because we prepare, most of our courses are aimed to average level, not a basic level. So people, they tend to know what kind of information do they need, and they go and get it, you know. So we have more evolved markets, football markets, looking for this kind of courses, the Northern European, the US, well, in Canada also, United Arab Emirates also looking for this kind of information. So I believe that the market will answer that question, you know. People will need to get more conscious about what they need, and they will make a natural selection of the content that they need. I'm quite sure of it.
Anybody wants to add on it?
Yeah, I absolutely agree with what Ricardo is saying. I think you need to start from the need. And if you're looking, just knowledge to change is general, right? You're not always looking at students who are looking for knowledge and are going to enter a program. There are also a lot of professionals who are seeking to develop their skills even further, trying to look for an executive management program, but even a scouting program or more program on the technical side. Everybody is looking for guidance all the time. And if you, as an educational institute, can offer that guidance, can offer a specific course, I think then the need will always be there. It needs to start from that need, and you need to try to fill that gap. That's the most important thing.
It's amazing. So I guess we have come to the end of the session. So it's been, like quite a lengthy session, but I guess like we had variety of topics with different experiences, ranging from refereeing to digital to online platforms to soccer education institutes. So I think it was enriching, quite an enriching experience for all of us. So we would love to connect with you, panelists, post this sessions as well. Over to Himanshu, and please, yeah.
On behalf of Sportsseed Pro, thank you to all the speakers for sparing their valuable time. And we look forward. I mean, I understand each of you have enough content to probably cover a whole day, but we tried to squeeze in everything in 2 hours. It's physically not, but I appreciate the effort everyone put in. And thank you so much for having us. We'd soon like to hear from you again. We'll plan something again, and we look forward to having you again with us very soon.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. See you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks.
Okay. Ganeshan, you can take over now for the quiz competition for the attendees. That is what you have developed for the attendees. So you can take over. Thank you, Yograj. Thank you, Dr. Errol.
Yeah, so continuing with the presentation, what I have in store for all of you, the quiz. We had the 2 previous time blocks, which I had previously mentioned for all the delegates. And moving on to the third most crucial era, known as the golden era, is where coach Syed Abdul Rahim played a significant role and guided India to a crucial 1948 London Olympics, which was the first ever World Cup final which India participated in, but unfortunately lost in the first match against France. This was their first attempt in qualifying for the World Cup, and they got an automatic qualification after the three Asian teams failed to qualify. Moving on, we had the famous Asian Games in 1951, where the team consisted of legendary players such as Mr. P.K. Banerjee, Jarnail Singh, and many others like Peter Thangaraj, the goalkeeper. There were many stalwarts who were playing a really significant role for India. And Coach Syed Abdul came as a person who had transformed the grassroots. He was trying to inculcate a, a pathway for players and trying to promote players to the national team. Moving on, 1953 to 55 was a great era as well, where they won the Quadrangular Cup for 3 consecutive years. The likes of Ceylon, Bangladesh, and other Asian countries were playing at this era, followed by the 1956 Melbourne Olympics, where India reached the semi-finals and secured fourth place. It was a hard-fought match, but India made a significant development during that era. Following which, they also had a lot of players who participated in the youth cups, in the national cup competitions, such as the Durand Cup, and some clubs such as Mohun Bagan and East Bengal were doing really well. They were promoting their squads, and at the same time, the football transformed to a different parts of India. Before the final participation in the 1970 Asian Games, there were a lot of players who were looking for a transformation. They went into the coaching line, and slowly but surely, India was moving towards the next segment of coaching, where we would see more number of former players taking up coaching roles and definitely trying to make a mark for India. Okay, so if it's audible for all of you, we'll start with the quiz now. Once again, I'll be displaying the questions for briefly 15 seconds. And as mentioned earlier, you can text your answers on the phone number which I was mentioning before. So the first question, the first player to score a hat-trick in the Olympic Games was an Indian footballer in the 1956 Summer Olympics. Can you name him? Neville D'Souza, Sahu Mewalal, Sailen Mana, none of the above. If you have answered, please text. The first person to text will be the winner. So the next question, which Indian goalkeeper has the rare feat of representing India in 2 consecutive Olympics? That is the 1956 and 1960 Summer Olympics. A. Babu Narayan, B. Peter Thangaraj, C. Bhaskar Ganguly, or D. None of the above. Moving on to the third question. Which is the second oldest club formed in southern India? A. RB Ferguson, B. Aurora FC, C. Real Malabar FC, D. None of the above. This goes a long way back in time, but was a very significant development at that time, I'm sure. The penultimate question, which Indian player scored the only goal in India's 2-1 defeat against France in the 1948 Summer Olympics? Was it A. Sarangapani Raman, B. Sahu Mewalal, C. Balram Parab Ramachandra, D. None of the above? Moving on to the final question of this session. Which two teams competed in the Santosh Trophy final of 1955? A. Mysore and Bengal. B. Bombay and Services. C. Bengal and Services. D. None of the above. Okay, so if you all have answered the questions, you can type it fast and send across your answers. We'll have a look and declare the winners at the end of the conclave. So just a reminder for tomorrow, we would like to share the links with all of you 15 minutes prior to the session, and we'll keep you all informed. Thank you. So the session will start at 11 a.m. tomorrow to the Zoom webinar. Thank you.